Hi everyone, how are you doing? It is really chilly here in the Scottish borders. It is just above freezing just now and it's going to go down to -5 degrees. So with this cold spell coming and the first snow, we need to be thinking about the seedlings in the greenhouse. So back in August, September time, we were only sowing hardy annuals and perennials because we knew they were the kind of seedlings that were going to be able to survive through a winter. So they can cope with some cold, and being in the greenhouse rather than planted outside in the garden, it probably gives them an extra couple of degrees of heat in there compared to being in the flower beds. But on a night where it is going several degrees under freezing like tonight, that's still not going to provide that much protection. So they can cope with a little bit of cold, but for extra security you can actually do a few things just to help get them through that cold spell in the winter time. And I know that you've been asking some questions about how I do this, because I don't provide any kind of heating at all over the winter to my greenhouse seedlings. They are just in there on their own, unheated. So let's go and have a look and see what we're going to do to protect them tonight. The first thing I've got here is I have got a box of horticultural fleece, and this is 30-gram horticultural fleece, so it's slightly thicker. I think you can get it in 17 grams and you can get it in 30 grams. And I found that the 17 is really quite thin and rips easily, whereas the 30-gram provides a little bit more protection, a few more degrees protection, and also is thicker, so less liable to rip, and then it lasts year after year a lot better. So I'm going to take that along to the greenhouse just now, and I'm going to cover up some of my plants with that. And it's just a thin layer that will go over the top like a floating row cover, and that means that it won't harm the seedlings underneath. It's not putting any pressure on them, but it'll just give them a nice microclimate to survive over a really cold spell overnight. Here we are in the greenhouse now. It was very cold last night. It was just under freezing and I didn't cover things. I didn't think it was going to go quite as cold as it did. And so some things were looking a little bit worse for wear this morning, but are bouncing back now. But I definitely know that I don't think going as low as -5 tonight, it's going to get away with that in here without some coverage on them. So these are the Nigella, still looking okay. Sweet peas are doing all right as well. Scabious are just doing okay. Definitely going to benefit from a cover. Now, at the moment, I am keeping these seedlings in here on the dry side. So normally, if I go along and I would feel the compost, and if it was feeling this dry, I would think, right, I need to water. But I'm not going to water these just now because I know the temperature is falling. This is in the afternoon just now. The temperatures are going to get lower and lower and lower, and it is not a good time to water. If I watered just now, then it would mean that it could freeze around the roots and the plant just might not survive. So when is going to be the best time for me to water? Well, I'm going to wait for it to come out of this cold spell because it won't last forever. It looks like it's going to do probably a week of really cold temperatures, and then they might rise a bit. And when the temperatures have risen to well above freezing again, then I'll come in and I will water them then. And I'll do it in the morning so they've got all of that day before the temperatures lower at night to absorb some of that water and not have the potential to freeze later on if I've made a mistake and got the weather wrong and it suddenly dips colder than I thought. And after that, in the wintertime, I'm only going to check on them and see how they're doing. So only water when it's mild and quite a few degrees above freezing and in the morning, and I am only going to water when it's looking like compost drying out. Last year I overwatered my ranunculus and I lost quite a lot of them, so I'm going to try keeping them more on the drier side this year. And they were looking just not quite so happy this morning that it had been so cold in the greenhouse overnight, but they have bounced back a bit during the day today, and I'm just going to cover them over just now. So here's my cornflowers as well. Soil's quite dry, but again, I'm not going to go near this, watering this until the temperatures come back up again. Right, here we go. We are going to just put on the horticultural fleece over the top of the seedlings. You need to be quite careful that you're gentle doing it so that you don't crush any of the seedlings, but it is really lightweight and it will just sit on the top of them and not damage any of the fragile stems and leaves underneath. And you can see that it can allow light through as well, which is really good. So you can just lay it gently on the top And again, this is my 30-gram fleece, so it is a thicker variety, which means it'll help keep those seedlings a little bit warmer, which is what I think that they need right now. And you can get it in really long rolls or smaller sections if you want. I got mine on a really big roll, and then I was just able to cut off the right lengths for putting along the staging or on some of the beds out in the garden in the springtime. I'm definitely glad that I put that fleece on yesterday because it has been very cold overnight and we've had some snow, which Hattie is very happy about. She likes to play in the garden in the snow at every opportunity. The skies are very beautiful today as well. We've got tinges of pink up there with the blue skies. Days are getting colder, but I'm still working my way through all the wreath orders for this year, and it's been great to be able to get all the foliage from the garden and the moss out of the lawn as well, because we're not quite frozen over completely yet, so I'm still able to use all the ingredients from the garden that I like to make my wreaths with. Hi everyone, so it is now the weekend and it has been -5 again overnight, and it has been snowing and it has been a prolonged spell of cold all week. It has been well under freezing overnight, so we've had the fleece over our seedlings in the greenhouse, but the temperatures never got above freezing in the day, so I haven't actually lifted that fleece off like I normally would. Normally when it dips under, I'd put the fleece over overnight, and then when the temperatures rise in the morning I would then take it off to ventilate the plants and let them have some more light, but I just couldn't do that at the moment because the temperatures have been so cold, and it's just a prolonged spell. It's going into the whole of next week as well. It's going to be -5 at least overnight, and then it's going to be freezing in the day as well, and lots more snow to come. So we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed that these seedlings are going to make it through the next couple of weeks. After that, I think the temperatures are due to rise, and I'll be able to have a little look at how they're doing then. How is the weather with you at the moment? Are you getting a good cold snap before Christmas time, or are you quite mild at the moment? The one thing that I'm really glad about is that I lifted those dahlias last week before this cold snap started, because they would have been frozen in the ground now. I wouldn't have been able to get them out, and I probably would have lost a lot of them, so that was really good that I managed to get them in and stored indoors just in time. So I didn't quite manage to get to the end of all my garden jobs before the cold snap started, and I did have quite a few narcissi and daffodils that I still needed to plant, but there is just no way just now with the ground so frozen and covered in snow that I'm going to be able to do that job, so I think I'm looking into the new year for that. And it might be that they're not going to flower well this year because it's too late for them to develop really well under the ground, but hopefully in years to come they'll come back again. I am glad I got the tulips in though. That was a really big job done, as well as the dahlias. And I was hoping that I'd be able to show you the flower patches and what was happening with them and the outdoor seedlings that were in the ground, but that's not going to be able to happen this week, so maybe in a few weeks' time. I don't know whether you can hear in the background, but that's Away in a Manger playing from the local church bells, and that's one of the lovely things about living in town but still being able to be a flower farmer, is that you can enjoy things like the church bell music on a Sunday morning, and today it's all Christmas songs, which is really nice to hear when I'm out in the garden and setting up the Christmas shop. So this is one of the main reasons why more of the lawn is not dug up for flower patches. There is a ban on that from the girls because it is a compulsory sledging hill in the winter time with the snow, and it is a lot of great fun, and also it's very good in the summertime when you can put a water slide on it as well. I think one of my favourite times of day at the moment is when the sun is setting and also when it is rising in the morning, because the colours are just stunning with that little bit of sunshine and the blue skies and the snow. And because of everything is covered in snow, it's forcing me to have a slow down, and I'm not running around flower farming and doing all the many jobs that there are to do all the time, and I can just sit back and enjoy the garden and the beautiful views. So we haven't had any more snow overnight. It's Monday morning now, but it has been a really cold one. So Robert sent me a message this morning and said when he left for work very early on in the morning, it was -13 it had gone down to, but certainly very, very cold. And now that it's 10 o'clock in the morning, the temperatures are nowhere near above freezing. So very, very cold. And that means that I am not doing anything to take that horticultural fleece off those seedlings in that greenhouse. It's staying on. I'm trying to provide them with some kind of a microclimate to get them through the next week of really chilly weather. So the weather forecast is saying that we're going to have these freezing temperatures for another week, and then it should be getting to just above zero next week. So we'll be able to check on those seedlings then and see if they've made it through. I'm not sure whether they will have done really. This is really quite a prolonged spell of cold for us, and also the plants this year had no time to gradually acclimatise to that. We had a very, very mild autumn, and then suddenly we went into this very, very cold snap. So just going to have to wait and see, and I'll keep you updated as to what has happened with them. But we had all that beautiful ranunculus and anemones growing so well in the greenhouse. I just hope they make it through. So here's a little look in the back garden and leading up to the top flower patch, and you can just see it's all covered in snow and there's a lot of frozen branches out there. It is very, very beautiful though, and I'm just wondering how well these perennials are going to come through this cold snap, and the bulbs as well that are out in the ground. They should hopefully be okay, and also I haven't chopped back a lot of the perennials yet. I still left a lot of the stems and seed heads on, so that might be providing a little bit of protection from the very cold temperatures as well. And again, it's a little bit difficult to be doing any of the wreath making at the moment because everything is just so frozen outside. So foraging for the winter greenery and the moss to make the wreaths is a little more tricky this week. But we're managing, and it's still really a lot of fun making these lovely wreaths to decorate people's doors. And the greenhouse, we've been managing to keep the shop open a bit in the daytime as well for people to come along and get their pots of bulbs and their jewellery and things. So that's been really nice to do as well. So as the week's going on, absolutely unbelievably beautiful, the sun as well, and the skies and the snow. It is just a winter wonderland here in the Scottish borders, but so, so cold. And you can see in the clip here that I'm waking up this morning and there is a lot of ice on the inside of the windows in the house. It's one of the things living in an old house as well. It's getting very cold and difficult to heat just now. Hi everyone, morning. It is now Tuesday morning and it's -10, so it's still very, very cold. So cold now that the greenhouse doors aren't even opening because they're frozen shut. So I'm just going to have to be patient and wait until it thaws. I tried to move the greenhouse doors the other day and they just weren't moving at all, and I'm afraid to break them, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. I've done all I can. I've got those plants under their fleece and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens when there's a thaw. So we're just going to go inside and make some Christmas wreaths today, and we're going to try and get back and have a look in the greenhouse again tomorrow or Thursday. Hopefully the temperatures will start to rise by then, but it doesn't look like it's going to get above -6 in the day today, so another really chilly start. Hi everyone, today's Friday and we're nearing the end of a second week of absolutely freezing conditions here in the Scottish borders, and at the moment it is getting up about -8 in the daytime. It's dropped as low as -15 degrees Celsius overnight. Very, very, very cold, and it is absolutely stunningly beautiful because all of the snow, the trees, it's all frozen. Even the River Tweed has got ice blocks floating down. It's starting to freeze over as well. But what does this mean for the garden itself? It's quite a worrying time because all those hardy annual seedlings that normally I would cover in the horticultural fleece, I would take it off during the daytime and that would protect it when the temperatures dipped. Well, the temperatures are never coming up and they haven't for a couple of weeks now, so I'm really worried that we're going to lose all of those hardy annual seedlings. And it's not the end of the world. I can start again in January. I will just have later flowers this year. They'll flower in June instead of May for me. But at the same time, you're losing income that way, and it's all those hours that you have spent working thinking during August, September, October that you potentially are going to lose all those plants from. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens when the thaw comes, and that will probably happen next week, although the temperatures are going to rise ever so slightly, but I think there's going to be more snow forecast as well. It's been a difficult month too because the freezing conditions mean people aren't out and about as much. It means my greenhouse shop I've had to shut because the greenhouse is frozen solid. You can't get in it at the moment. I can't make more Christmas wreaths because of all the materials in the garden to use. They're all completely frozen solid as well. So everything at the moment is at a standstill. So all we can do at the moment is hope for the best when the thaw comes and just to enjoy the absolutely stunning countryside that I am living in at the moment, because it really is beautiful. We've had some beautiful dog walks, some walks to school that have been absolutely beautiful, very, very cold. We've had to dress up really warmly, and it's been nice family time as well, trying to keep warm in the house if we can, putting the fires on and huddling around that in blankets at night time too. So we'll see how things go, and we'll report back next week in a video and let you know what's happened if it has thawed out at all. So today's too cold to make any wreaths. I can't gather any more foliage or moss from the garden, and we also can't run the greenhouse shop. So I think the best thing to do on a day like this is to go and have a really nice dog walk out in the countryside. And the next little bit of video is just to remind me how beautiful it was this week when it was really, really cold. So let's go on a dog walk with Hattie and see the local countryside. It really is magical. Thanks so much for watching this week's video, and I will be back again next week just before Christmas to let you know how we're all getting on. And if you are in a very cold spell at the moment, I hope you are staying nice and warm in your houses and managing to still get out and about if you need to.